I'm Amy Titus, Radical Self-Compassion and Joy Coach of The Awakening Design, where I help people understand and align to their unique soul-level gifts so that they can live the life of their dreams. Thank you so much for tuning in to my very first video of my series in March, Connecting with Your Authentic Self. This month, we're going to get into the steps we can all take to empower and honor our authentic selves and the things we can do to make sure that we're showing up in all of our beautiful uniqueness every single day. Sound good? Awesome. Let's dive in. In this video, we're going to take a look at the best ways we can honor our past on our spiritual journey and then let that past go to create the change we want to see in our lives. As we continue on or even begin our spiritual development journey, one of the things that we do is we look at our past to get a better understanding of where we are now and how we got here. If we look really closely, we can see how each individual choice has moved us along our winding path. For example, I can zoom in on specific events or even patterns of events that happened and what the impact was on me moving forward. So maybe I was bullied for a couple of years, or maybe I had a turbulent relationship with my father through high school. I can see how all of these things add up to where I am now. And that is wonderful. That's such a beautiful blessing. But it takes courage to do this kind of work because it can be inherently painful. But it can bring so much clarity to why we are the way that we are. But the issue is when we get stuck in the past and how the past has created our current reality. Because as we look back and put the pieces of who we are together, all of that is basically just information, right? And if we stop there, we can get stuck in a cycle that feels a lot like victimization, and that's certainly not what we want at all. What we're really looking for is how to use that information to transform our lives. So as we strive to come into an authentic relationship with ourselves, looking back at all the things that have made us who we are is part and parcel. It's so important. We all know the saying, to know where you're going, you have to know where you've been. But I challenge that and say that that is really only part of the message, because looking at the past is a wonderful indication of how we got to where we are. Like I said, it's crucial information. But the choices that we make now is what determines where we are inevitably going to end up. The last thing we want to do if we're really, really ready for change is to continue to make the same choices that got us here. For most people, all along their spiritual development journey, there are periods of going back and looking at what happened and how we responded to those things and what choices we made to get us where we are. And every time we're ready for another spiritual growth spurt, more than likely some reflection will occur on our part as we face the different issues that are coming up to be healed, okay? And each time this period of reflection could take weeks, it could take months, it could take years, but to serve our absolute highest good, we should always come to a point where we are no longer looking at the past as it relates to where we are now, but there should be a time at the end of period of reflection where we act, where we do something differently, where we take all the information that we've been looking at and processing and we ask ourselves, okay, and now what do I do with this and how do I use it to transform my life? Yes, my dad said that he didn't feel like I was an expert at anything. And I now know that I made the choice to believe him in some way. My subconscious mind believed him. And that choice to believe him caused me to run a program in my subconscious that still exists today that makes it hard for me to see my potential. But now, after this work I've done, I know the truth and I know that that is not true. So how do I release it? How do I release the power that this program has over me with love and then move on? The answer is complex, but here are some steps that I hope will serve you. And please note, this is some deep stuff that we're talking about, and it's not an overnight thing. Our past has absolutely completely shaped who we are over time by repetition of thoughts and habits, and most of us are on autopilot in the way that we think and act. So if we want to apply what we've learned from the past, the first step is to become really, really aware of what our mind is doing. We need to train ourselves to pay attention to the thoughts that are out of alignment with the life that we want to live and who we want to be as they cross our mind. So say I've come out of a time of reflection and spiritual work, and I'm beginning spiritual growth where I'm focused on my own self-expression and how different things in my past have made me feel unsafe when I've been expressing myself. So what I need to do is become hyper aware of the thoughts that do not support me expressing myself as they're coming across my mind, and then acknowledge them. So if I have thoughts like, nobody cares what I have to say, or I better keep my mouth shut, I'm not an expert in anything, when one of these thoughts pops across my mind, I need to take note and I need to be aware of it. And then quickly become aware of what triggered that specific thought, like what situation am I in? And then counter it with an affirmation to its opposite, like my opinions are valuable and valid. If you've made it this far in the video, I would love to invite you to join the Awakening Design community and like this video and subscribe to my channel. Join me on Instagram and Facebook as well for a lot more content and information about upcoming events and trainings. So many of our thoughts we are completely unaware of, but just because we don't notice them does not mean that they don't have an impact. This is very important. And remember that the things that have happened in our past are directly related to the choices that we make in the present now. So if we don't train ourselves to become aware of our thoughts, we will have a thought that supports us feeling like I can express myself or I'm not good enough. And that thought, if we're not aware, will lead us to not speaking up, which is a very powerful action because it's making the same choice that we've been making in our past that has got us to where we are. And if we want a different outcome, we have to make a different choice, right? Makes sense? And the choices we make all start in the mind. So if we want to change our experience, we have to change our mind. And the very best way that I know to train yourself to become more aware of your thoughts is meditation. The whole point of meditation is to become aware of our thoughts, to see them as they pass, and then eventually to be able to quiet them. And this takes time. They call it a meditation practice for a reason. I personally have had a meditation practice for 12 years, and there's still some days when I cannot quiet my mind down. That's just part of it. But what I can say is that meditation has helped me tremendously to just become aware of the thoughts that are affecting my experience and to really tune into that beautiful, still small voice of my true and highest self. And once we learn how to step outside of the craziness of the egoic mind when we want to change our lives, it happens in a tremendous way. I'm going to do a beginner's video on meditation in the near future because I think it's just so important. So be on the lookout for that. So that's the second tip I have for you. Determine to change your mind and thereby your actions. Once we're aware of our thoughts, we need to make the choice to act differently. And sometimes, that choice can be as simple as correcting the thought. If you have a thought, I'm useless and I can't create the life that I want, stop yourself right then and there and think, or better yet, say out loud, I am worthy of the life that I want, and I'm capable of bringing it into fruition. That feels so much better, right? On our spiritual journey, as we set the intention to create the future that is different from our past, it's all about making different choices for ourselves. And a lot of the time, it's really simply just the choice to think about things differently. But it's simple, but it's challenging because our minds are arguably the toughest things to change. And it's a choice to push ourselves mentally and emotionally and not allow ourselves to fall back into patterns of feeling like we're not good enough or like we're the victim and like not feeling like it's not worth it. And it's never gonna work out anyway. It takes time to really leap outside of the box and lean into patterns of thoughts like, I can do this, I'm worthy, I deserve this. And what would it look like if I did make this happen? So here's a little pro tip around affirmations. I've been doing them for a really long time. Supporting yourself with positive self-talk is infinitely more effective if your subconscious mind believes or can easily get on board with what you're saying. As you're coming up with your affirmations, pick things that your subconscious mind can get on board with. So instead of saying, I'm the most amazing, beautiful, talented person that has ever existed, okay? Perhaps start with something like, I'm doing the best that I can, and that is always enough. Or I trust myself to do the best that I can. I'm learning more and more every day how to be the best and fullest expression of myself. We aren't trying to trick our subconscious mind. We're trying to orient it to the truth. So use something that, you can really feel and resonate with. And honestly, in the world that we live in, maintaining this kind of mindset is a skill. So if it's hard for you, or you've tried affirmations before and meditation before and didn't get the results that you wanted, it's okay. And you're in really good company, because with everything that's being thrown at us from the outside world, it's telling us that we're not good enough, that we don't have enough, that we need more. But when we push all this aside, when we decondition from that, and we understand the truth of who we actually are and can shed off that conditioning that keeps us small and insecure, magical and mystical things can happen in our lives. As we do this work, and it's my personal opinion that this is the most important work we can do. And when we look at what's coming up in our lives to be healed, we can make the choice to bravely address those issues and lean more into thoughts and feelings that support where we want to go and who we want to be. Spiritual development and growth is just that, it's growth. It's continuous. We're never going to get it all done. We're always going to be moving and changing. And it's not like a constant path of acceleration. There are dips and valleys. Sometimes we take giant leaps forward, and then sometimes we revert a little bit. Nothing at all to do with spirit and soul is linear. And that's so important for us to remember. So as the different issues and past woundings come up, remember they're coming up because we are ready to heal that issue. And isn't that so exciting? They're coming up because we're in a place spiritually, mentally, and emotionally to address them, if we choose to be brave and to do that work. But sometimes we'll heal the majority of an issue, and sometimes we'll heal just a little bit, just enough so it doesn't get in our way as we level up. And this has happened to me dozens of times where I heal just enough of an issue to keep moving. And this kind of work isn't a one and done thing, so that's totally fine. That's natural. And especially around big issues, we don't dive back into our past just one time, clean it all up around particularly big issues, and then everything's perfect and we never have to look at it again. That's just not how spiritual growth and spiritual healing happens. But don't be discouraged about this, and know that each time that you work on an issue, it is getting smaller and smaller until finally it's ready to be completely released. So that would be my last tip. Be gentle with yourself. Manage your expectations around this process, because this process is huge. And know that in releasing and doing this work, you're doing so much more than what you might realize. The best way to grow and create a new experience for yourself and stop living in the past is to just make new choices for yourself in the present. Choose to think or act differently when you can, when you're aware and you can. So those are the best ways to continue your journey of honoring and releasing the past to create a different experience. Be aware of what your thoughts are and what they're creating for you. Determine to change your thoughts and thereby your actions. And then be gentle with yourself and know that you'll never get it all done. There's no rush. Things will unfold in this healing just as and when they're supposed to. And when you trust divine timing and divine process, you will always be delighted with the outcome. Believe me. One of the best tools I know to get a deep and accurate understanding of your energetic offering is a system called human design. This is a comprehensive modality that gives us information about who we are energetically and how we show up in our relationships with ourselves and with others. It has been absolutely fundamental to my own growth and was a huge catalyst for me of transformation when I found it about 4 years ago. I'll put a link in the description if you want to learn more about how it can help you on your spiritual development journey. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Amy Titus, Radical Self-Compassion and Joy Coach of The Awakening Design, where I help people understand and align to their unique soul level gifts so that they can live the life of their dreams. If you haven't already done so, please like and subscribe. And I'll see you next week when we continue our deep dive on this month's topic of aligning to our authentic self. Bye!